What's up, Blue Sox Nation? Tim Best, your PA announcer here, and of course, your host here on the Soxcast. I know what you're thinking. Where's your guest? Well, as Forrest Gump once said, it happens. And it did. I was supposed to have a guest on this week, and some things happened, and unfortunately, it just didn't line up. And that's okay, because this is an emergency episode. I literally planned this maybe 10 to 20 minutes before filming started. And this is a special one because although I'm going to be talking a lot about this, this is open for debate for all Blue Sox fans out here. With opening day just, at the time of recording, 2 weeks away in Major League Baseball, that got us thinking. It got me thinking, but I had this discussion with our fearless leader, George Deek, the owner of the squad. All-time Blue Sox squad. In the Pointstreak era, I know in Major League Baseball, there's the Statcast era when talking about statistics and all that jazz. But the Pointstreak era in the PGCBL began in 2015, and it made live stats possible, number one. And number two, made it much easier to be able to keep track of stats throughout the season. And you could go to specific games, get those stats, it would be much easier to get them because they would have a more in-depth, a real play-by-play where you get pitch counts and all that jazz. So this is from 2015 till today, your all-time Blue Sox squad. And by the way, this does include the final year of the then Utica Brewers. So from 2015 to 21, if you have your own ideas, again, comment on this video on the YouTube page or comment Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. We would love your feedback because, you know, I'm not trying to say this is the end-all be-all all-time Blue Sox squad. This is just me talking for myself. And I'm not really talking on behalf of the entire Blue Sox team. So again, I've been here the longest. I've been here even longer than the ownership has because I began with this team back in 2014, back when they were still the Brewers, and they had a guy in center field. You might have heard him by the name of Cedric Mullins. But let's get rolling. Let's start with, first and foremost, each position. Starting with catchers, very important part. And there have been a good fair share of great catchers that have come through here. The three all Blue Sox, Mitch Calandra, a guy who played here 2 years and played pretty solidly, was an all-star in 2016 and was a clutch member of the West Division Championship team back in 2016. The following year came Cole Purcell, native of California, played at Willamette University, and was really good at times. He carried the offense all by himself when other guys had a tough time. And then finally, even though he only played 13 games, got to give it out to Colton Benner because he was a PGCBL All-Star and now is in the minor leagues with the San Diego Padres. And he hit well over 300 in his 13 games played in a Utica uniform. Unfortunately, had a season-ending injury, and that's okay. But he made the games he played count and then some. As for the catcher spot, I mean, it's tough, but with the way Mitch Calandra was able to drive in runs at a high rate, 37 RBIs in basically a year and a half with the Blue Sox, and an average nearly at 300 over that stretch. I just think that, you know, with more time, who knows how much averages could have dipped with either Purcell or Bender. The more consistent option, I think overall with defense and all that considered, the combination of power contact, I'm going Mitch Calandra as the starting catcher. At first base, this is a loaded position. Robbie Young, Zane Harris, Kyle Schmack. That's loaded. Robbie Young, 3-year guy, had a rough go of it in 16-17, but in 2019, he had his finest hour as he led the league in hits with 56. He also got 14 doubles and finished in the top 5 in batting average, hitting .368. And in his career, still third all-time in a multitude of categories, including RBIs, games played, and a host of others. So, but then you had Zane Harris, a guy who drove in 35 runs in 2017 and was an all-star coming out of Wright State. And then you add Kyle Schmack, led the PGCBL in RBIs last year with 34. And he was considered even for the outfield. But first base, I feel like that's more of his natural position. Great defensive first baseman, too. But when it comes down to it, you got a 3-year guy against a bunch of guys that only played 1 year, and a guy who also led the PGCBL in hits and hit nearly .370. And also plays really great defensively. And you have that combination. You got to go with the soon-to-be Blue Sox Hall of Famer, Robbie Young, starting at first base. Second base is a toughie. A lot tougher than you may think. First and foremost, Jared Baldinelli, 2-year guy, played on the final Brewer team and the final Blue Sox, and the first Blue Sox team, Over his 2-year career in the regular season, hit .301 in 70 games, including a career best .347 in 2015. And then for his whole career, he drew 66 walks, 66, and drew 42 in the 2016 season. Of course, was on the first 2 PGCBL playoff teams in Utica franchise history. And then following him at second base, the new hit king in Utica, Luis De Leon. 3 years, 135 hits. Absolutely unreal. And a .365 career batting average in 3 years. It's not like he just did it in 1 year. He did it 3 years. And the lowest average he hit was .331. The other 2 years, he had .371 in 2018, his first year. And in 2019, easily his finest year, one that should have gotten him the MVP of the league. He hit .397 with 6 homers and nearly 30 runs batted in. He might have had more, actually 31 RBIs, now that I think about it. And then finally, a guy who was a sleeper on the 2015 team. Although Baldinelli earned the starting position, he got moved to third base for the end of the season just to make sure they had another good bat in the lineup towards the top. Vinnie Capone, a guy out of Concordia College in New York. He got slept on, man. He hit .308 and was a very consistent hitter. Steady, went the course, and was really good at the end of the day. And again, like I said, quietly went about his way and played really well and deserved to be a postseason starter. And by the way, for first base, there were a lot of other guys being considered. I mean, Dewey Rhoden, for one, but he's a two-way guy, so of course he's going to get some consideration on the pitching staff. And then Don Brager was another really good first baseman. I mean, guy hit well over 280, 20 runs batted in. And then trying to think of some other guys off the top of my head. I mean, Josh Hatcher was another guy. He played really good at first base, but he also played the outfield, so you might hear his name later on. But anyways, second base was another tough one. Michael Dallas was under consideration, but I think a .300 average definitely sticks out. Now, to the hot corner. First and foremost, Ryan Enos. Now, he was also, I mean, I could have put him at second base, but third base, probably where he's played the most and probably where he's played his best. Great guy at the top of the lineup and even the bottom of the lineup. I mean, the 2019 team, he was hitting ninth. That's how good they were. And he was really, really good. And we've all seen what he's done at Oswego, what he's done in a Utica uniform. Easy considered choice at third base. Also, there a guy who probably could have played in a multitude of positions on this list. Coco Hussein hit over 300 and was among the team leaders in RBIs back in 2018 out of Keystone College. And then finally, a guy who got multiple walk-off hits back in 2016 when walk-off city took off. Kyle Winkler was among the team leaders in RBIs back in 2016, the native of Littleton, Colorado, and the product of Miami University in Ohio. Wink earns his spot. He had 2 walk-off hits, one against Adirondack, the other against the Victor Rail Riders, both in the nightcaps of doubleheaders. Let's think about that. But when it comes to the position, how can you not pick the local favorite? Going Rhino, my guy, starting at third base. Now the shortstop position. By the way, we haven't even gotten to it. There's an EH and a DH up for grabs as well. But the shortstop position, starting with last week's guest, Ryan Cox. 383 batting average in 2015, won the PGCBL batting crown. And he would have played a lot more short, but there was that back injury we talked about that limited him and had him playing DH. So, of course, you got to consider Ryan Cox. Shortstop was a really, really tough position, but I mean, the top 3 were clear. Next on the list, Joe Spitaleri. Before Harris Williams broke his record, who you're going to hear his name later, he had a franchise record 28 steals in 2016, got a walk-off hit against Elmira, and was really good all season long, had 50 hits in the regular season, and route to an all-star selection and leading the Blue Sox to the West Division Championship. And then finally, Tyler Simon. Simon out of Kennesaw State, man, that guy, a tremendous fielder, had pop in his bat, and boy, did he have speed. Set a franchise record with 16 doubles in 2019. Just a great all-around player, one that you want to have as your starting shortstop, and that's where I got him. Tyler Simon is your starting shortstop for me, especially because of his defense. Unreal. Now, left field, pretty good names. Well, obviously, you got to start with Mr. Blue Sox himself, Taylor Olmstead. The first 3-year Blue Sox had his number retired before his play career was even over. I mean, where do I begin with him? 11 home runs over 3 years, a franchise record. 81 RBIs is also a franchise record. Also the franchise leader in triples, hit by pitch, tied for the all-time lead in total bases. I mean, he leads in so many categories for the Blue Sox and was a big part of the reemergence of the team. Next up, Isaiah Torres. This is a guy who, he primarily played left field, but I mean, the dude was a bona fide DH. Not really tall, 5'9", pretty chunky, nearly 200 pounds, but the guy could hit the hell out of the baseball. Hit 338 and had a walk-off hit against Watertown in a doubleheader towards the end of the season back then. And then finally, from most recently, Tanner Kim, the now freshman at the University of Kentucky, hit 311, was among the team leaders in RBIs with 24 this past year with the Sox. But all really good names, but none of them can really compare to Taylor Olmstead. Of course, you've got to have T.O. in there. Now, center field, some pretty good names out there, starting with Devin Garcia, a guy who joined the team about 2 weeks into the season in 2017 out of Ohio. Tremendous defensive center fielder. I mean, who could forget that great play that he made in the ninth inning that was a game-saving catch on what could have been a double, even a triple, made a full extension diving catch that saved the game, and that was part of a big comeback. The Blue Sox were down 9-0 in that game, and by the way, they were led by the aforementioned Taylor Olmstead with a 3-run homer and a grand slam and back-to-back innings in the 6th and 7th that turned it from 9. It was 9-0 going to the bottom of the 6th. Then it went to 9-2. Olmstead made it 9-5 and then 9-9. They took the lead in the bottom of the 8th on a sac fly by Rob Antrioli, and then Garcia makes the game-saving catch. Austin Salnice gets the save. Sox win 10-9 over the Diamond Dogs. But Devin Garcia, really good hitter too. Now, a guy that could do a lot, Cam Feltz, who is now playing indie ball with the Washington Wild Things. This guy, knew what he was doing. His cannon in the outfield, that left arm was a cannon. And you'd be a fool to run on that arm. He was that dude in center field defensively. As a switch hitter also, provided power and speed and contact too. I mean, hit under 300, but it's still a good average. Hit a few home runs, drove in a lot of runs too, from the leadoff spot, no less. Cam Feltz being that second guy considered. And then most recently, Harris Williams, 338 hitter, second team all PGCBL, set a new franchise record with 30 steals in 2021. I mean, and he might have had a catch that could have easily topped what Devin Garcia did back in 2017. Absolutely unreal. So, and that was on pink night, no less. So, and I believe actually now I think about it, it might have been almost 4 years to the day between those catches. But I'm going to go Harris Williams here in center field. I think it was between him and Cam Feltz, but I'm going to go Harris. Phenomenal 2021 season for the product out of the University of San Francisco. This is where it gets tough. A loaded right field, starting with Blue Sox Hall of Famer Frank Jennings, the guy who was the captain, the heart and soul of the 2016 West Division Championship squad, a 312 hitter, 17 runs batted in, and made clutch plays in the outfield, clutch at the plate, especially in the playoffs, in that run to the West Division Championship. You can't leave him out, period. And then you add in the guy who had the most explosive offensive season all time, Khalid Cox, over 100 total bases in 1 year. Hit a single season record 9 home runs, drove in 32 runs, hit 368. KC was unreal that year. So, of course, you got to have him on the list. And then lastly, I could have easily put him at first base, but right field, I feel like because Robbie Young was at first base that year in 2019, this guy played a lot of right field. That guy was Josh Hatcher, who was a midseason addition coming over from Mississippi State. And he's now at Kennesaw State with his buddy Tyler Simon, as well as Malik Spratling, who was on the 2019 Blue Sox squad. Only played half the season and drove in basically a run per game, maybe even more. 21 games played, he had 10 doubles, and I think he had like 27 RBIs, I believe. He was unreal. I mean, who knows how good he could have done had he played the whole season? I don't know. Because knowing the ebbs and flow of baseball, he might have fizzled out. So it's not that big enough of a sample size. But to start in right field, defense is pretty important. Although Khalid was pretty good, you need an anchor and a vocal leader in the outfield. And that dude was clearly Franklin Jennings. Don't get me wrong, all respect and love to Blue Sox Hall of Famer Khalid Cox. But I'm going to go with Frank Jennings as my starting right fielder. By the way, there's DH and EH returning to the PGCBL this season. So who are my DH and EH? My DH, got to go with the 2015 PGCBL batting champ, Ryan Cox. And of course, Khalid Cox will EH. The lineup will look a little something like this. Of course, you got to have Frank Jennings setting the table at the top of the order and setting the tone also. Tyler Simon in the 2-hole. Taylor Olmstead lived and died in that 3-hole. Luis De Leon is your 4-man. Robbie Young will hit 5th. Ryan Cox in the 6th spot, followed by Mitch Calandra in the 7th spot. Harris Williams hitting 8th. Khalid Cox. Now, I know what you're thinking. A guy as good as he is offensively should be hitting in the middle. Well, most of that 2018 season, the most recent until this year, Blue Sox Hall of Famer, hit in the number 9 position in the order. Hey, he's comfortable in that position. Put him there. That's exactly what I did. And then rounding out that lineup is the local favorite, Ryan Eaves. And again, just think about that lineup. Absolutely insane. But offensively, again, and this for a general thing, if you got your thoughts on maybe someone got snubbed for consideration, snubbed for a starting position, feel free to comment on this video on YouTube. And also make sure to give us a like and subscribe too, if you haven't already. And if you want to comment on social media, wherever you see this, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Comment. We want your feedback. We need your feedback. Not like we need air to breathe, but you get the point. Now, onto the pitching staff. I think the starting pitchers, tough to navigate, but I think it's pretty clear who gets my nod. The number one starter. I mean, I don't even know if I should go in order, but my number one starter, season on the line, I got to give the guy a ball. I'm giving it Jacob Rosencrantz. 0.61 ERA, 4 games started, 10 appearances. I mean, if you watched him towards the end of the regular season, the guy was lights out and borderline untouchable. So Rosie gets my starting position. Now, the rest of the starting rotation, I'm going to go the number 2 position. I'm going to go Michael Messier. Guy was 1/100th of a run on his ERA away from taking home the PGCBL ERA title back in 2015 with the Brewers. And by the way, started for the West Division All-Stars in the All-Star game that year in Little Falls. And there were times, again, he looked untouchable too. 6'6" guy who threw submarine. I don't know about submarine. He's definitely sidearm for sure. Again, borderline untouchable at times. Now, number 3 starter, I mentioned Dewey Rhoden. He's a two-way guy. He could have gone either way. Hell, I might even make him my number 2 starter. But Dewey Rhoden gets a spot in my rotation. I mean, he's got 50 strikeouts in 2 years. I mean, had he not gotten Tommy John surgery back in September and he was able to pitch a full season, easily could have broken the all-time strikeouts record, set by a guy who is not featured in my. So I got a 5-man rotation, a middle reliever, a center man, and a closer I'll get to later. But he would have broken the record set by Christian Johnson Batalana over the 2014 and 15 seasons as the all-time strikeouts leader. But 50 is still really freaking good, especially for a two-way guy, So those are the first 3 stars. I think I'd venture to say Dewey 2, Mess 3, or one of that. Anyways, number 4 starter, I'm going Ryan Simpler. That guy was an absolute bulldog for the 2015 Brewers. Not to mention in his final start, ended his season with a bang. A complete game, 2-hit shutout, took a no-hitter into the 7th in Boonville against the Trailblazers in easily the most hitter-friendly ballpark in the entire league. Those of you who have been up that way and have been to a game there, you know that what I'm saying is 100% true and not up for debate. Got some banter from the peanut gallery there. But anyways, Sip threw a gem to clinch our first playoff berth in PGCBL history back in 2015. And he did it in the toughest place to pitch, in the league. And then last but not least, I got Blaise Loman. ERA just under 3 back in 2018. I can't believe I blanked on that, but guy really got slept on. The funny thing was, he looked horrible against Adirondack in the game where the Sox trailed 12-2, came back and won 19-14. He came out after 3 innings. And yet he still finished with an ERA under 3. I mean, he was dominant, was high up on the strikeout leaderboard in the league, and was an all-star too. So got to give a shout out to my guy Blaise. Ball me, Blazer, as White Goodman from Dodgeball would say. So that's my 5-man rotation. The bullpen was relatively easy to pick for who was going to be in it. The question becomes, who would go in what position? My long/middle reliever, I could have easily had him as my closer. Because of the 3 guys I had, he had more saves than both of them. But my middle reliever is Ray Pacella, a 1.23 ERA, pitched 17 games back in 2019, was a PGCBL All-Star, but he threw 44 innings. I mean, when manager Doug Gillette threw him out there, he let him go, and he let him go for a while, right around nearly three innings on average per appearance. 5 saves as well, and was just dominant, absolutely dominant every time he took the hill. So Ray Pacella is my middle reliever because of that longevity and his stamina to go a lot of innings. Now, setup man, y'all may forget this guy, but in 12 games in 2015, he made a lasting impression in his first real trip playing ball in the States for an extended period of time. And that is the Taiwanese sensation, Wei Young Sao. Again, he pitched 12 games, 16 2/3 innings. He gave up 1 unearned run the whole year. That was it. And he only gave up 1 extra base hit. Unreal. I mean, he got snubbed for the All-Star team, by the way. How do you not put a guy on the All-Star squad that doesn't give up a single earned run? I mean, that's a question that will remain to be answered. I mean, or the mystery of the Switch Bob. World may never know. But Sal, I hope you're in your home country. You hear this, you see this, thinking about you, buddy. You're still the man to me, and I didn't forget about you. One of the greatest relievers that has ever come through this organization. And it's awfully impressive that he didn't give up an earned run in that entire stretch. And even if it was, his ERA would still be under 1. So let's put it that way. And then the closer, at this point, if you figure out who the other 2 relievers were, at this point, you got to know who the closer is. I could have easily put Sal in the closer spot. I could have put Pacella in the closer spot. But the closer, because he closed out the Blue Sox first ever West Division Championship, the guy, even though he was there almost the whole way, lovingly known as New Guy, Ryan Green. I mean, look at what he did in the PGCBL playoffs in 2016. Borderline untouchable. And he got a grand total of, 2 saves, and then was the winning pitcher in Game 3 because he was still pitching when the Blue Sox regained the lead in Elmira in that deciding game and then finished it out for the win. A 1.28 ERA in the regular season, 4 saves as well. I mean, with that clutch factor, when it comes to picking the closer, I got to think to myself, and I saw Sal implode because his arm was jello at that point. I saw him implode in the playoffs in 2015 at Victor and gave up a lot of runs. Granted, some of them are unearned because there were some errors made, but that's kind of beside the point. They were still runs that he gave up. When it comes to the closer, again, the most confident I would be in giving the guy the ball to get the final 3 outs, or however many outs, it's Ryan Green, period. So, again, Blue Sox fans, if you have any thoughts, if you want to disagree with me, listen, this is open for discussion. This isn't the end-all, be-all here, because I'm just opening the door for discussion. I'm not closing it. So if you got your thoughts on snubs, maybe you want to throw in different guys in the order, you may want to retool it a little bit, or even, throw in other pitchers that I may have left off the list because I only had 8 pitchers, 5 starters, and then a middle reliever, set a man, and a closer. I really want to hear your thoughts. I think all of us within the organization want to hear your thoughts. So comment on this video here on YouTube, or do so where we post it live, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. We would love to hear your thoughts again. So thank you for tuning into this impromptu episode of the Soxcast with me, Tim Best. Like I said, this is improvised. This wasn't meant to be, but things happen. You got to improvise. Improvise, adapt, overcome, as Bear Grylls would like to say. And that's what we've done here today. We were given lemons, and damn it, we decided to make lemonade. So for all of you loyal watchers, subscribers, out there, wherever you may be, thank you for tuning in. And again, the debate room is officially open on this. I'm the all-time Blue Sox squad since 2015. So again, keep the discussion going in the comment section here on YouTube, as well as connecting with us to do so on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So signing off for this week's edition of the Soxcast, I'm Tim Best. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate the support as always. And we will catch you next time here on the Soxcast. And next week, it won't be an April Fool's joke this time. I promise you that. Because it will be April Fool's Day when the next episode airs. Because that's April Fool's Day will be next Friday. So until then, thanks for stopping by and tuning in to this week's edition of the Soxcast. Catch you next week and enjoy the rest of the month of March. And again, we'll see you on the other side here in April.